Well, welcome to Going Deeper in today's topic, becoming lovers of generosity. I wonder, have you ever thought about what was passed on to you by your family in regards to money? Was it taught to you? Was it given by example? What did your family pass on to you about how to think about and how to use money? Chances are you may not even be aware of it. And the world would like it to stay that way. But I mention it because there's a big difference between how the world views money and how God sees money. In fact, they're polar opposites. Now, I became aware of this first when I was doing an economics degree at Monash in my 20s. I saw that government and banks and businesses, even charities and churches, followed basic economic theories. And for the most part, that's okay because, well, that's how the world works. Most people believe that their money is theirs, full stop. I earn it, I deserve it, I allocate it. Now, some people do give and donate from time to time, but only when they feel like it. The problem is, many Christians have sanctified that same idea by just giving regularly. But after that, well, they think, like others, that their money is theirs. Well, I went into quite a soul-searching study because I was making economics and banking part of my life, and it troubled me that it seemed to conflict with what I understood about God's views. And what I want to share with you is some of the things that I discovered in that study. I came to believe that what I was being taught in university may be economically accurate, but it's not how God wants followers of Jesus to think about money. It was actually a shocking revelation to me at the time, and its implications are quite revolutionary, so look away if you want. But here's how world economics works. So I've just got a little whiteboard with some pictures, and I've drawn a square, which we'll just call the world. I know the world is round and not flat, but just work with me on this where the world economy, that's, production and trade and buying and selling worldwide. All those things, they're what happens. Now, if we're talking about, money, we usually think about it in terms of our world or my world. So we'll just put a little my world in here, like that. And then in the middle of my world is what is most important to me. And if we're all honest, that would be us. And so in there, let me just put a little me and a little smiley face. So, like most people, I am at the center of my world. I wake up every morning. I never think about, what my neighbour's doing and what he's having for breakfast. I usually think about what I'm going to have for breakfast. And my world represents my personal values and my views and my needs and my wants. This is in an economic sense. And we're taught to make that world as big as possible, to really go for it and accumulate. And so inside of that thinking is the theory or the principle that what I have belongs to me. Now, that's not to say that I'm the only person in my world. So, I can have some thought for the poor. Yes, I know I'm not a very good drawer, but again, work with me. Or I could be thinking about maybe the church. Or I could even be thinking about a charity. Now, I can give to these other things, but what the world says is when I give to the church or the poor or to charity, I've got to be careful because giving reduces my world. You know, there's only so much to go around. And so when I give, money leaves my life. And I can actually think that, you know, my world starts to shrink a little bit as a result. Now, that's significant because every marketer, every person that produces something to sell will tell you that they live on the desire of people to have more. And this theory, which says, as I spend and if I actually give, I need more. Well, let's think about how God's economics works. And again, we're starting with a square because, you know, God created the world. He loves the world and gave his son for it. And in God's world, in this world, if we're being real, there's still production and trade and buying and selling. So tick to that. Now, inside of my world, inside of the world, I should say, is my world. And so we'll draw a circle. And God wants me, though, to grow that world, not for my sake, but for his. And here's something that followers of Jesus know, is that unlike with the world's view of money, I am not the center of my world. Jesus is the center of my world. And he gets to shape my values and my beliefs, my needs and my wants, and yes, even how I use my money. So the overarching principle is, as opposed to here, which is, well, what I have belongs to me, the overarching principle here is what I have belongs to God. And as I give, as I use the resources that God's given me, I actually, rather than shrink my world and give it away, I'm actually bringing those concerns into my world by using the resources that God has given me. So, you know, I can see my world expanding. So Christ is still the center of my world, but my world starts to grow, and it grows because I'm investing in the church, in the poor, and even into charities. And these things come into my world and actually make my world bigger. Now, you probably notice straight away that there's something missing in the drawing, but it's not missing to God. And yes, you are still very important to him when it comes to his views of economy and money. But as I am generous and start including the things that are of concern to God in my world enlarges. It doesn't shrink, which is what basic economics will tell you. And because God is my supply, and because I'm using the resources that he's given me to bring his concern into my world, I'm enlarging my world's concerns and my influence, then I'm not going to run out. He will always supply my needs according to his riches in glory. My world is expanding. Jesus is still at the center, but it's a totally different view. And so rather than saying, well, gee, I need more because I'm going to run out, a follower of Jesus says, you know what? I have enough and always will have enough. Well, it's simple diagram. Economics is not a terribly complex thing. But what I just shared with you is a revolutionary way to live. And it runs totally counter to culture. You think about everything you've ever been taught, even by your grandma or someone godly, about money. It sort of looks like that. There's only so much to go around. Will I run out? Do I have enough for me? What about me and my kids and then my holidays and my retirement? We're always worrying about, will I have enough? And so therefore we strive to get more and more and more. That's totally different to the way God sees it, where he says, I will supply all your needs. And I want you to invest in the things that he is concerned about. And yes, he's concerned about you as well, that you're no longer the center of the universe. Jesus is. Giving enlarges your world, which enables you to say, I have enough. Now, I started to realize that this wasn't really just my crazy idea. As I did some research into economics and all those sort of things, I also did some Bible study, and I found out that this was really God's plan all along. You can read about it in the Bible. It's there in plain sight. One verse in particular is in the Wisdom of Proverbs, chapter 11, which says, it's possible to give away and become richer. It's also possible to hold on too tightly and lose everything. Yes, the generous person shall be made rich. By watering others, they too will be watered. By sharing with others, they will also have their needs met. I bet you're thinking, so does God require everyone to be generous? The answer is yes. And often people say, oh, well, I'm on welfare, surely that doesn't apply to me. Well, it actually applies to you even if you weren't getting welfare and you were out of work. And the reason is that generosity begins in the heart. It's not fixated on a percentage or a number. It starts with your attitude. That's the most important thing to Jesus. The disciples of Jesus, if you are a disciple of Jesus, if you desire to do that, then you will become a lover of generosity. You will put your trust in him and not in the holy dollar. So I'm wondering, as we, think about these things, maybe you're discussing it in your life group, does God's economics challenge your thinking about being generous? Or is this just something that's interesting to know but may not apply to you? But if it challenges you, can I actually ask you to think about how it might then change you, how it might change your giving? You can discuss it, as I said, in your groups, discuss it with friends. I encourage you to pray about it and then also to listen to the voice of God. Reflect on the scriptures and see if what I've just said here isn't entirely true. Join the revolution. It'll change you, and it may even just change the world.